So, I just spent like 10 minutes accumulating all of the begonias that I have in this house that are under my care onto this table. And I've done that because I want to talk a little bit about begonias. So first of all, this is a question I get like all the time. I get questioned about, you know, how to care for begonias and, you know, why I keep them as a houseplant and why I like them. A lot of people don't even know that they make a really great houseplant. It's more of like, it seems to be like not a trendy houseplant for some reason, or like an outdated, or like something that, you know, your grandmother might have done, but like not, it's not that common to see begonias as houseplants, especially Rex begonias, and like some of these ones are a little bit rarer or weirder. I think it's changing, and I would like that to change more, but begonias are just such an easy plant for me, like an easy, rewarding houseplant that is awesome and forgiving and just all these amazing things, and yet I very rarely see them marketed as houseplants or like people have them on their wish lists or something. So yeah, first of all, I'm going to start out, there's a jillion different kinds of begonias. On this table, I have, this is my Rex begonias over here. So Rex begonias basically have bigger leaves. You know, they have like a kind of spreading rhizome. They're known for their foliage, and there's so many different cultivars. There's a billion. This is actually an Iron Cross begonia. The rest are all hybrids. You don't even know the parentage necessarily. I have like a big leaf one. There's some spirally ones. This one's like red. This one is silver and black. That one is more of a ruffled. And there's another spiral one, a fuzzy spiral one there that I just got. And those are all, you know, Rex begonias. They have big leaves, and they tend to like, you know, they do well in all kinds of different lighting, but they don't like direct lighting. They do decently in like lower lighting, and they do like a little bit higher humidity, and their leaves can get damaged pretty easily. But I've also found that they do fine in, you know, lower lighting, lower humidity, and just in general, like, aren't that fussy. They also do not like being wet. But they will like kind of droop whenever they need watered. Some of these I just watered, so they're still a little droopy. So that's what's really cool about begonias, is they will droop when they need watered, but they won't necessarily suffer immediately from being underwatered, but they will suffer from being overwatered. So that's just very, very brief Rex begonia care. I usually grow them in terracotta pots, and I water them when they droop. And they are never going to be really fully like the most pretty, like full plant. Like this plant, kind of straggly, a little weird looking. The lower lighting you have, the more like straggly they're going to look. But I think the leaves kind of make up for that. Like these leaves are awesome and giant, and they do get little flowers. Like this little guy has some little flowers right there. But they're not really that substantial. This is actually not a Rex begonia, it is a rhizomatous begonia, and I know that because the flowers were very different when it bloomed, and it also is just thicker, waxier leaves, not as fuzzy or textured, and yeah, but the care is basically the same, so it doesn't really matter. Then the next common type, well, the type that I have is cane begonias, and these have a ton of different names. People call them angel wing. There's just like 8 billion different kinds. Most of these here are hybrids, so I don't know the species like ancestry or hybridization parentage, but they generally get these cute little flowers in all different colors. This one smells really good. It's called Begonia honeysuckle. And their growth tends to be kind of upright, and then they have these big leaves. Sometimes they're speckled, sometimes they're plain green, sometimes they have this like rounded edge, sometimes they're a little squatter. This one's a little squatter, and this one's just a plain green. And then they tend to grow upright, so you either, and then kind of trail, so you either stake them up like this guy. It's my Begonia Immaculata whitey eye that I got a few months ago, and they're known for their flowers, and their really cool foliage. And to care for them, they're basically the same as Rex Begonias in my experience. They do fine on just a regular like east window, west window. They don't mind drying down. They just don't want to be overwatered. And then they do better with a little bit more humidity, but I haven't had humidity issues with them yet necessarily because it's summer. And, you know, they've been growing a lot from their base. They just kind of grow new leaves all the time, and I keep them in terracotta pots. You know, it's not like some people make these cane begonias out to be really, really difficult, high humidity, crazy, difficult houseplants. And I'd say that it's probably difficult to make them look really good. Like begonias in general, they kind of have an awkward kind of habit. Like this guy is kind of weird and leggy, but I just really like them. I don't know. Yeah. So then there's like oddballs, like this is a Griffin Begonia, which is huge and gets these giant leaves, and there are tons of oddballs like that. And that one is also really good about drooping when it needs to be watered. So overall, oh, another thing, the soil that I use for my begonias, I usually do it kind of like a Hoya soil mix. So if you know anything about Hoyas, they like it to be moist-ish, but moist-ish, but well draining. So like what I usually do is I'll mix in some bark into a regular topsoil, or not topsoil, potting soil. So bark and perlite into a regular potting soil, and that's usually enough for the moisture and humidity that they need. Or at least I feel, in my opinion, that's a good soil choice for them. But they can just go in regular potting soil. They're really, in my experience, it can be a little bit hard to master when to water them and, you know, how much lighting they want. But they're very forgiving. Like this plant here, this was my very first one. This is a Stardust Rex Begonia, and it was in a pot that did not fully drain in lower lighting. And it kind of slowly, it died back to like 2 leaves and then slowly regrew from that. So they're very forgiving. They will regrow their leaves, and they're not like, it's not like, I don't know, I've tried Calathea, which like higher humidity, and it's nothing like that. Like a lot of people get scared away, I think, from having begonias because, or Rex Begonias, like the big leaf begonias and the cane begonias, because they think that the humidity in their house is too low. And I would say just go for it, because they're not going to die from low humidity. They just might look a little ugly sometimes. But I haven't had a problem with that personally. And sometimes if they're in a lower lighting, they will bend towards the light. But, you know, I love Rex Begonias and cane begonias and begonias in general. I think they're so crazy and diverse and cool as houseplants. And I have too many, and I noticed that while putting them all on this table that I have way too many Rex Begonias, because the one thing about them is they can get big, they can get huge, they're not compact. Like this Pegasus Begonia will get bigger, like huge, way bigger. But yeah, so that's it, I guess. My phone is currently overheating, so I just tried to make this very quick. Hope you have some insight into begonias. I don't know. Ask me any questions if you want, because I'm not like super expert on these guys, but I've had them for like all these guys for like over a year now. Over 2 years now? I don't remember. But yeah, so I love them a lot. Like, look at them. Yeah, thanks for watching.